Test fit the remainder of the main components. So we get the bottle in here, and then have speed controls back in that area, and then this is kind of the main control with I got the receiver in here and 2 gun boards, and then I'll make sure that when I put the decks on that there's no interference, and then once that's done I'll test weigh the boat and just kind of confirm that it's not too heavy. So in this case I put 4 batteries in it, which I think should be enough for 2 sorties, and then I test weighed it and it came out to 15 pounds 11 ounces, where I think the target's somewhere around 20, so plenty of buffer there. I will sort of confirm, I got to put CO2 hoses in, and I got to confirm some wire extensions. Now that I know all the internal components fit, I will sheet the hull, so I'll put the balsa wood sides on it. To start, first I'm going to put Gorilla Tape down over the plastic. That does a few things. One, it does have some thickness, so it helps absorb contact or impact to the plastic. It also makes removing the sides much easier because the contact cement will come off the tape much easier than it would the plastic, and then it kind of removes the need to use a chisel to get the sides off. So usually on a fiberglass boat I'll end up using a chisel to get the sides off, but with ABS that can end up digging in and damaging the hull. So to do this I'll just I just end up covering the entire boat with a couple strips, so I'll probably do a strip and a half or so in this aft area, just going like fore to aft, and then I will cut out the windows with a razor blade. Here it is mid-process, so you see start with the tape and then use a razor blade, and then very quickly just kind of slit along the ribs and then the bottom, and then I've used smaller pieces to cover casement area. So I'll get this first piece down, then I'll do the second piece, cut that out, and then this side will be done. Okay, I finished up this side here, so you can just kind of see from bow to stern what that looks like. I'll do the other side, and then before I actually put the sides on, I'll use some sandpaper to kind of rough up this outside surface just so the contact cement adheres better. I've started sheeting the boat. This involves taking the balsa wood, prepping it, then using contact cement to attach it to the outside of the hull. I have a separate video of this, so I won't go into too detail. At this point I'll start spray painting the pieces of the boat. So here's superstructure. I just use kind of a basic Rust-Oleum primer spray paint for a light gray, and then on the deck pieces I'll paint the barbettes first, the cylinders there. Once that dries, it makes it easier to tape off, so I can paint the deck a different color. The boat is now sheeted. Once the balsa's on, I'll put pieces silk span over the joints where there's a transition between pieces. Next step, I will paint the boat, and I'll just use a basic latex light gray color, and I'll paint pretty much the entire sides. I'll do the gray first, and then might need to do 2 coats just because it's relatively thin paint, and then once that dries, then I'll start painting some of the red for the bottom. The boat is now mostly painted. Painting it because it very quickly makes the boat look a whole lot better. Now I will assemble the superstructure. This you can either do before or after painting. If you do it before, the advantage is you can usually get the glue to stick a little bit better, whereas after, sometimes the glue will pull the paint off between the 2 surfaces. Do it after, it's much easier to get kind of full coverage on all the surfaces, especially something with the tripod like this ship. So I will assemble the tripod. So for that I'll have 2 rods. These are plastic. To do this, I will drill out each of the layers in the stack here. Drill out the holes to slightly larger than the diameter of the rod, because it's necessary to get them all to fit together. This is something you need to do really with the superstructure not on the boat, because it can be difficult to get the rods all the way through. Did a test assembly of the tripod. Went sort of okay. You can see the sort of the paint on those diagonal posts. This one's usually the hardest because there really isn't much tolerance on the hole size or on the clearance. This is kind of why you need to do it with none of this assembled. So for these 2 diagonal pieces, I marked them, so I'll pull those out and cut them, and then I will glue it all together the E6000. In the end, they come out looking great, but sometimes can be a bit frustrating actually doing the assembly. Superstructure is glued together with E6000. Use some clamps to hold the forward superstructure on. Then the aft, I just put some weights on here to make sure that this edge right here is lined up. Now that the boat's sheeted, I've put all the internals back in, and then I'm going to do a float test. So I got all the main components in here. All I have left really to do is just hook up the CO2 lines. I want to just kind of confirm what weight the ship should be at, so I'll float it and then measure the freeboard and add weights, basically confirm if I need to glue any weights onto the hull. Okay, here's a quick float test. Fortunately, this boat is small enough to fit in a bathtub. So first thing is just checking that the boat is level. You can kind of see there. And then I made little marks. The water line there. And then I'm just putting weights just to kind of get the weight right. And then I have marks at the bow of the stern, and then 2 points along the midpoint. So I'll just take note of there and make sure the boat is sitting at the right location. I finished assembling the boat and have it ready for its first battle. So it really comes together quickly once you start painting. Just do a quick tour of the inside all loaded up. So you can see I got the CO2 bottle 5 ounce up here in the bow, the regulator. Over right here are my 2 gun boards and receiver and a modular control box I can swap between boats. And we have the battery compartment. So this is in a printed tray to hold 4 3S 5000 milliamp hour LiPo batteries. Those will plug into a bus bar right there. You can see things get pretty cluttered in these boats, but that distributes power from these 4 batteries to the 3 ESCs, so 1 for each drive motor and then 1 for the pump, and then it provides auxiliary power to the receiver. I do have a separate receiver battery right here, which helps maintain control and prevent issues with the battery eliminator circuits from ESCs. And then in the aft section there really isn't too much, so I got my 2 guns. It's a little difficult to open this up with the magnets. But really not too much there, just I have the pump ESC in between those 2 drive motors and then the rudder servo. But the advantage of having the solenoids attached to the deck is that inside the boat and the stern there really isn't much. And then you can see that the magazines, these are the 2 magazines for the stern guns, so they kind of extend into this main open area, so they can be filled right here quite easily. And then on the bow deck, just have the single gun and then reload right here, which is pretty simple. So that concludes this build. Excited to get it on the water and hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching.